Good evening, everyone. It's Saturday, time for the masterclass. We are learning more about productive failure, and I'm sure you must all be getting ready to do your experiment of productive failure because your experiment is what we are looking forward to. As far as the book is concerned, it's now giving some beautiful examples how you can use productive failure, but you have to design your productive failure. That's your challenge. So as you regroup when you go back to school, maybe you can team up, refer to some of the readings we are doing, and create your productive failure. We must try and do, if not five, at least one or two in a team. And the productive failure lessons which you people put together, we hope to compile them into a book, as I've said earlier. So when we were here last time, we were actually talking about a very interesting thing about how do you activate these productive failure process. And a very interesting analogy was given, the analogy of a tree, much like a planted in a well prepared soil, has all the resources it needs to grow. The teacher's instructions then is like the sunlight and water that help seed sprout and flourish. Today we will read how do you activate prioritize. First, it activates relevant prior knowledge, both formal knowledge that you may have learnt in school, but also informal and intuitive knowledge from lived experiences. By invoking everyday experiences and existing knowledge of floating and sinking, if you remember, we were talking about clay and a solid metal which we had tried to float. So this is that experiment. These experiments make the new information more accessible and meaningful. As we have seen earlier, we need to activate prior knowledge to make sense of new information. So when you talked about the flotation experiment, you had an idea that something which is lighter floats or something which has got air in it floats. But you couldn't imagine something solid and heavy also floats, which is what you'll find with everyday experience. The more we connect new information with our priorities, the better we are prepared to process the new information. And such failure based generation is high on the activation spectrum. It gets the soil ready. Differentiate priorities. Second, by generating multiple solutions, experiments, observations, and inferences, we have a created activation that is also diverse, varied, or as I call it, differentiated. Differentiation simply refers to activation that tries to get to the targeted concept in not one but many different ways. Because all learners learn differently, all learners have a different knowledge base, they're at a different level. So you have to have differentiation. It's like trying to get to a destination but trying multiple paths to get to it. Even if the paths do not get you there, all lead to dead ends. Not the correct path that Google suggests, but a set of differentiated navigation paths. Whether you are generating solutions to the basketball problem, or experiments to explain floating and sinking, or learning how to use a word in different contexts, or cooking a dish in different ways, the idea behind differentiation is that it creates a set of contrasts between the multiple solutions. B. A network of multiple paths to get to the targeted knowledge. And C. Conditions for the development of cognitive flexibility. Contrasts hold the key to the problem of seeing. By contrasting what is similar and different between several things, we can see features that are critical and those that are not. The wooden ball floats about the clay ball sinks in the water, regardless of size. But they both float in honey, regardless of size. It is contrasts that help us notice critical features that matter. In this case, something about the object and the fluid, and also notice features that do not matter. In this case, the size of the balls. Recall that without being able to features we cannot possibly understand. These little examples are very wonderful stories. Types of trees, say a spruce and a fir. Just reading about them or seeing them separately might not help you distinguish one from the other effectively. But when you examine them side by side, noting the differences in needle shape, cone, structure, and bark texture, you are more likely to notice and remember the distinct features of each tree. From a perpetual standpoint, our brains are wired to notice differences. And the same is true from a cognitive standpoint as well. Armed with features that matter and do not matter, you are now ready to learn the formal concepts. Encode variability. In addition to contrast, differentiated activation helps us leverage the power of encoding variability. The principle behind encoding variability is straightforward. When we encounter and process information in different ways, we create multiple paths or traces in our memory. Each of these traces provide a unique route for information retrieval. Suppose you run into a new person, let's say John. If you only hear the name once, your memory of the name will depend on a singular auditory encoding. Now, if John introduces himself to you and shakes your hand, you have additional sensory information to encode: the sound of his voice, his face, and the feel of his handshake, etc. If you later see John perform at a local theater, your memory encoding now includes this performance context. All these experiences provide different angles or contexts from which to recall John's name, increasing the likelihood of successful recall. Let's look at more complex example, like studying for an exam. If you only read your notes, you are relying on a single method of encoding, the visual process of written text. However, if you also discuss the material with classmates, create mind maps, write summaries, or teach the material to someone else, you are encoding the information in multiple ways, like we are doing in the masterclass. Each method engages different cognitive processes and contexts, creating a richer and more interconnected memory trace. Consequently, you increase your chances of recalling the information during the exam because you set up multiple retrieval paths. In everyday life, encoding variability happens all the time. Consider learning to cook a new dish. You might read a recipe, visual, watch a video, tutorial, audio visual, physically prepare the dish, kinesthetic, and smell and taste the ingredients, olfactory and gustatory. These varied experiences create a robust memory trace of the cooking process, aiding future recall and performance. Similarly, if you're learning a foreign language and you only memorize vocabulary lists, your recall might be limited. But if you also listen to music, watch movies, converse with native speakers, and practice writing in the language, you are diversifying your encoding strategies. This encoding variability not only improves your recall of the language, but also helps you understand the language in different contexts and nuances. So, we are doing something of a similar experiment. On Fridays, we are reading essentially in English and we are talking in Hindi. We are hoping that the Hindi learners, by listening to English, will learn English. And you will notice this because your conversations, your real life conversations, the way you pronounce things, the way you do things, the way you carry yourself has a phenomenal impact on the learner. In a nutshell, encoding variability is like building a web of interconnected memory traces. Each interaction or encoding of information serves as a node in this web, and the connections between these nodes are the pathways for recall. The more diverse the encodings, the more robust and interconnected the web becomes, thereby enhancing the ability to retrieve the information when needed. The power of encoding variability lies in its ability to create a resilient, multifaceted memory that can be accessed from different angles and contexts, enhancing your learning and memory recall capabilities. Let's look at an example. When you play a video or a podcast, or When you go today on the OTT platform, you can recall any serial, any story, anything you missed out. You can play it, you can replay it, you can zoom it, you can enlarge it, you can reduce the volume. There are so many variables which come up by about, and that's how you are able to take the context. Giving you another example, when you read alone and when you read in a group, it makes a difference. Here's another example I mentioned 2 days back also, that you have an audiobook and you have a print book, but we have an example where we have an audio visual book for you now. Why? In the video channel of My Good School, you will find the book text and you'll find a voice behind with elucidation, with examples, which will help you get more flexibility and variability for encoding. Cognitive flexibility. It is easy to see how generating multiple solutions and solution paths to solve a problem, even if those solutions and solution paths do not lead us to the correct solutions, creates this web of interconnected memory traces that are not only useful for processing new information but also for retrieving it later. There is also an added benefit of setting the learner on the path of developing cognitive flexibility. So often when you read a chapter in a class, it may not register. You may show an experiment in a class, it may not register. But all these things which you do leave behind some traces, some bits and bytes, which help cognitive ability to develop. In the context of learning from productive failure, cognitive flexibility is the ability of a learner to adaptively navigate and experiment the various problem solving approaches, drawing from a range of prior experiences and knowledge, even when facing initial failure. It is the capacity to pivot in one's thinking, reorganize information, and consider multiple solutions or perspectives before arriving at a deep understanding or solution. Now, this is the whole idea of doing examples of productive failure. In other words, it is the mental agility displayed when someone encounters challenges or mistakes in the learning process, but can still shift, adapt, and use different strategies or perspectives to ultimately grasp and master the concept of skill. Just as a city with many roads has more routes to a specific location and therefore more flexibility in getting from one point to another, a brain with varied encodings have more ways to access a particular piece of knowledge in flexible ways. This improves the robustness of memory recall because even if one path, which is a cue or association, is forgotten, other cues or associations can still guide you to the desired information. The network is by definition more flexible because it affords multiple ways to connecting, routing, and assembling knowledge. The network is properly activated, differentiated, interconnected. It is prepared for learning, not just prepared, but also primed for learning. For priming is all we see is an added benefit over the above deeper processing and preparation. Now let's see how priming happens. See how stage by stage from activating priori to reaching priming, how he's trying to explain and how he's trying to make us think. This book is indeed very challenging and that could be your productive failure. But do read it slowly, do replay it, go back with the video and try and understand why this is helping you build your cognitive ability. So, what is priming? Back in high school, I had an English teacher who had a counterintuitive strategy for tackling reading comprehension questions in exams. For those unfamiliar, reading comprehension sections typically present a passage followed by a set of questions to assess your understanding of the passage. The conventional approach, which I used to follow, was to read the passage first, then answer the question. My teacher, however, advised us exactly the opposite. Read the questions first and then the passage. She believed this method would direct our focus, make the reading more goal oriented. Although I was initially skeptical, I decided to give it a try. I skimmed the questions, creating mental markers of what to look for, then delved into the passage. It felt less like wandering in a textual maze and more like having a map to find treasures of answers. The questions provided context, even without attempting to answer them, making the passage more accessible and easier to navigate. What an interesting way to learn. This shift in approach is as simple as it was. Change my interaction with the text, making the daunting exam a more manageable task. It was a practical, straightforward strategy that has stuck with me. And the beauty is that it does not require any generation in the sense we have been discussing in the previous section whatsoever, and therefore no failure as such. Just thinking about a few questions before navigating through dense material did me wonders. 2 decades later, when I was in doctoral school, I realized that my teacher's approach was supported by science, and that is the power of priming. So there's a whole science behind priming. So I'll give you a simple example. Your water pump, you prime it. Sometimes it gets air in it. So you prime it, then it works. So similarly, you prime the thought process, then it works better. So how do you improve attention? Improving attention. Recall the 2009 study of Richland and colleagues from earlier, where students were asked to learn something new by reading an essay on an unfamiliar topic: human color blindness caused by brain damage. In the study, students either read the essay first, just like my conventional approach, and then took a post test to test their knowledge of the essay, or took a pre test first, read the essay, and then took the post test. In support of the failed generation effect, recall that the study found that the pre tested students performed better on the post test in spite of failing in the pre test. So this is a very interesting way of designing your productive failure. In a twist to the pretest group, Richland and colleagues 2009 inserted a third group to their fifth experiment. They gave some students just the questions in the pretest without asking them to answer them, and then had them read the essay. I call this the pre-questions group because, unlike the pre-tested students who actually attempted the pre-test questions and failed to generate the correct answers, students in the pre-questions group merely studied the questions without attempting to answer them, much like my teacher's approach to read comprehension. So, familiarity of the end goal, which is the answer to the questions, perhaps helps you look for the answers and read. In pre-tested, students outperformed the pre-questioned students. It would show that just giving the questions is not sufficient. It pays off to actually answer the question in a new and unfamiliar topic, even if you get them wrong. And they found exactly that. The pre tested group outperformed the pre questions group on learning from the essay. Failed generation is more effective even than studying the questions before learning something new from an essay, giving support for the deeper processing and preparing mechanisms. But remember, there was the conventional group too, who were neither pre tested nor pre questioned, who directly read the essay and then took the post test, much like my approach to answer reading comprehension questions. To test my English teacher strategy, one would have to compare the performance of the pre questions with the conventional group. If the pre questions group did the same as the conventional group, then perhaps there was no value to reading the question before reading an essay. But if the pre questions group outperformed the conventional group, not only would that support my English teacher strategy from 2 decades earlier, but it would also show that merely knowing the questions beforehand primes us into how we go about reading the essay and learning from it. Let me just take a shot of this experiment and put it for you in your Saturday masterclass. So I'm adding this graphic there. The figure is available to you. You can slow the video and actually use the figure. So I've added the figure to the conversation chat and I'm back to the class. So you look at this way, this is how it works. So there are three groups now. There's a pre-test, they read essay, and then there's a post-test. There's a pre-question, they read essay, and there's a post-test. Then there is the read essay and there's a post-test. Now in all these cases, 10 minutes were used. In pre-questions, There was no testing, which is this gray one. And that is exactly what they found. The pre questions group outperformed the conventional group in the pre test, showing that even without any generation, let alone failed generation, just questions alone can prime us for subsequent learning. Such priming is key as it shapes our subsequent learning behaviors by at once improving attention and reducing mind wandering, as well as focusing our search for answers to the questions. So how do you reduce mind wandering? So how beautifully how he goes. He talks of one thing, then finds another, and the whole chain gun goes along. Now he's going to talk about mind wandering. So how do you reduce mind wandering in a class? Intriguing, a 2020 study of Stephen Pan and colleagues added some empirical weight to the notion that pre-testing can increase attention and reduce mind wandering during subsequent learning. Using mind-wandering probes, they uncovered the participants who underwent pre-testing reported lower levels of mind-wandering and therefore greater attention while learning from subsequent video lectures compared to those who did not pre-test. It was as if the pre-test questions focused their attention to look out for the answers and made them wander less. In the absence of a pretest, such focus may not be as strong or well structured, and people tended to wander more. Better attention and reduced mind wandering are great, but not sufficient. What one does with that during the learning also matters. Focusing search. In a related 2020 study that came out around the same time as above, Kyle J. St. Hilger and colleagues found that the pre-testing effect worked only if the people could actually remember the pre-test questions. So now the focus. So it goes to, I'll give you an example here. When you do a search, the biggest challenge is creating the prompts. And if you don't create the right prompts, you'll never reach where you want to reach. So, in a similar manner, like you use AI, like you use Chat GPT, what matters is the sharp prompts you create. So, this pre testing is like prompting. In a series of experiments, students were either given a pre test or not before watching a lecture video. Of course, they expected greater attention and reduced mind wandering from their pre tested students. But they wanted to more closely examine the students did during the watching of the video. Now let's see what happens here. To understand what students did while watching the video, they asked some of the students to jot down what they thought was important information in the video lecture with no reference to the pre-test questions, while instructing others to specifically try to find answers to the questions in the pre-test. By analyzing participants' notes, they found that the benefits of this pre-test were only seen when students could notice and select answers to the pre-test during the video, suggesting that the success of pre-testing hinges on the student's ability to remember and focus on the questions asked earlier. Which is true. If you just forget the questions, then what's the point of even reading or having the questions beforehand? Given that the pre-tested students performed better than those who were not pre-tested, it means that the pre-testing also serves a priming function of helping students spot and grasp the answers during the video lecture. In sum, let's see what this is now. In sum, the mechanism of processing, preparation, and priming work together to bring out the effects of failure based activation and set up to understand the boundaries and awareness of what we know and what we do not know. So there'll be some takeaways which I'm going to discuss one step at a time. Let me add this for you. The sum of what this whole exercise in the activation chapter was. So key takeaway. First one, activating relevant prior knowledge is the key. Activated priors not only work like hooks for the new knowledge to latch onto, they also integrate new knowledge. So let's start collecting the key takeaways. So that's the first one. Second one, not all ways of activating are equal. Activities such as watching and listening fall on the lower end of the activation spectrum, whereas activities such as problem solving, explaining, and discussing fall on the higher end of the spectrum, especially failure based activation through problem solving as designed in productive failure. Failed generation is effective, attempting to answer questions about unfamiliar topic before learning improves learning of the topic even if the initial answers were incorrect. Processing, preparation, and priming. Failure based activation. First, induces deeper processing, even if generating solutions to challenging problems is difficult. For some difficulties are desirable. It prepares us for subsequent instruction of learning by activating our priors, differentiating them, encoding variability and cognitive flexibility, and primes us for the subsequent learning as well by enhancing attention, reducing mind wandering, and focusing our search for answers. So let's collect these key takeaways for you. So, key takeaway number one, let me just get these for you. So, let's put the so activating relevant prior knowledge. So, that's your key takeaway number one. Then let's go to key takeaway number two. Yeah, so I think what we'll do, we'll take a screenshot that will give you the product in a more presentable manner. So we'll take a screenshot of this and we'll take a screenshot of the previous first. I will add these screenshots to the conversation so that you have something at hand. So the first one has gone and I will also add the others and key takeaways second part. That's all yours. And we go back to the chapter. So we now have key takeaways. So we have the next phase, which is awareness. So if you look at the structure and how we are studying is very simple. We have completed activation. We are studying the science of failure. We started on the science of failure. We have completed activation today. And next time, we will start with awareness. So I will create a bookmark here for us to start next time. And I will also go back to your WhatsApp and add this part about what we have completed. So we have completed the science of failure, the activation phase. And what we will do next time is the awareness phase. So that's the bookmark. What will be the date next Saturday, please? 21st. So the bookmark for Saturday, 21st June has been added. That's Yoga Day coming up. I don't have to share anything more on the book. We will pause here for productive failure. We would be happy to go back to the YouTube channel and on the YouTube channel share with you a look as to where you will find all your YouTube videos. So like for example, last week was power of retention, science of failure, turning direct instructions on its head. The right column are the videos about productive failure and you can access them very easily by using the playlist. Today's video will be prepared in a little while and will be available. All videos are emailed to you in a newsletter. Let me show you where the newsletter is. So newsletter is there on gsi.in, which is Good Schools of India, Joy of Learning Weekly. I will browse through the last week's edition. In the last week's edition, we mentioned an example of special project, how the Lotus Petal Foundation is working. So in the weekly, which you can subscribe to by going to gsi.in, in your inbox, you'll get all the videos of the week. You'll get My Good School, you will get Power of Retention, which was productive failure, decision making. This is generated on Friday, and this is generated on Thursday. You also get some books of the week. So that's the structure of the weekly. Do subscribe, and you will be glad to know that the Good Schools of India weekly has been identified as the top 10 education resource on Substack. So the content is appreciated, your weekly is appreciated. Thank you for browsing and receiving, and thank you for your sharing, your giving, your learning. So that's about the weekly. In case you want to know a little more and catch up on your reading, we have a very interesting post today on merging forward and backward thinking in education. This is the last post from the last book we read before the productive failure class. So it's very interesting. Go read it. You'll find lots more to read. You'll also find here a session, Transforming Schools, Smart Teachers versus Technology. This is what we did last Friday. We don't do Thursday sessions anymore. We do Friday sessions. Friday sessions are in a meeting format. Saturday sessions are in a webinar format. And Sunday is My Good School 2 hours. That is in a meeting format. Sunday is open for teachers and students. Saturday is your professional learning program, the webinar which we are currently doing. And Friday aims to address the diverse nature of teachers we have in the country in terms of language, in terms of school structure, in terms of the systems which various schools use. So we try and connect the basics of schooling to schools and explore topics like, do you need a smart teacher or a smart class? It may be a good idea if some of you are interested in something lighter than the productive failure class. Please join us on Friday. It's very easy. You can join the group in WhatsApp. It's called Brewing Knowledge. We have often posted the Brewing Knowledge link with you, so it's easy for you to find it. Any question? Anyone wants to ask a question? We have loads of participants today. My panelist Manisha is here, and I'm there with you. If you have any question, please ask us. Any challenge you're facing to log in, to get in, we are more than happy. Thank you, Gurdeep, for highlighting the date. Thank you, Sumera, for wishing good evening. Thank you, Rajwinder. Thank you, Anita. Good, you all wished. I acknowledge your wish. Thank you so much. It's been a great Saturday. We have completed our session today a little beyond time, or before time, sorry, not beyond time. We are going to let you go with the hope that you will get time to refer to the session videos. You will get time to even read the chapter. And yes, if you go back on the Happy Teachers Academy, the Teachers Academy, I want to show you something more before you go. I'll share the screen and I'll highlight it for you. If you go to the Teachers Academy, happyteacher.in, the contact information is there, so you can email me or you can WhatsApp me. Feel free to do that where you are stuck. I'm there as your school improvement coach to assist you. This facility is only available to our masterclass students or teachers, as you like to call yourself. For me, your students. So go ahead, take the benefit of WhatsApping me or email me. I'm happy to do a call provided we can schedule it. Even that's not much of a challenge. We can schedule a call. It's yours. I'm there to answer. Your coach, your mentor, your guide, always there at your service. Manisha, anything you want to add today?
No, sir.
You want to share something about what's happening tomorrow?
Sure. Um, I would like to invite everyone for tomorrow's session. We are having a meet and greet session with our guest. So,
Our guest tomorrow is
our
Karthik.
guest, yes.
Yeah,
So, Karthik Bajoria is there, who is very passionate about his writing, the arts, education, and mental health. So, please join tomorrow.
that's My Good School, 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. every Sunday, hosted by Jugjeev and Manisha, and more fun. Even Brinda has joined them now. So twice a month you'll have three hosts. You'll have Jugjeev reading his book. You'll have Brinda reading The Inner Life of Animals, one chapter at a time. She has another interesting book lined up after Inner Life of Animals, which is The Animal Kingdom by Gerald Durrell. So she decided that she will read one animal story twice a month. So Brinda is a great teacher, as some of you know. She's our coach. She's our honorary member of our board. And more than anything else, she has served a lifetime in training teachers. Currently, she heads as Director Training and HR at Gyanshri School. So she joins in tomorrow. So tomorrow you have three people with you. Go ahead and meet them. Yes, and you have a guest. And more than anything else, you see the way Rishona talks to the guest. You will learn so much from way the Rishona interviews a guest. Rishona is a young girl in Gyanshri School, the first student in the first batch of My Good School, who's grown up to become a fantastic communication person. You will admire her, how she's been brought up, and how she has used My Good School as a platform. So maybe you want to come in there just for the meet and greet. Do find time. You will find a lot of learning on My Good School, how we do experiments, how our students reform, how our students develop. This is visible in the Sunday school. So I always say that there are three parts to our process at the Learning Forward Foundation. One part is governance, where we work with school management. Second part is training, where we work with teachers. And third part is learning, the outcome of working with the teachers. And this learning is beautifully exhibited on My Good School Sunday. So that's your Saturday evening. Enjoy yourself. Bless you all. Thank you for letting me be at your service. With you always. Cheers. Yes, don't forget it's lovely mango season, lychee season. Enjoy the fruits of the season. And if you happen to come to Dehradun, happily pluck them from our trees. Take care. Enjoy your holidays. If you're traveling, remember, stay hydrated. Take care of yourself. Avoid the sun. That's all I can say. Bye bye.